On to this daunting topic now. The cost of living is at an all-time high. And today we take a look at the Household Affordability Index. We've got Mervyn Abrahams from the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group who joins us this morning to discuss in particular the price of cooking oil. Mr. Abrahams, no doubt there's been quite an increase in the price of various oils that we would use to cook in our homes. Perhaps start by furnishing us with the reasons that we're seeing such a spike in the price of oil.
So good morning, and good morning to all your viewers. Yes, we have seen massive spikes in the price of cooking oil, and it's partly or largely rather to do with increased cost of sunflower, the raw sunflower seeds that's required for the input process, in addition to increasing fuel prices, which has made the production process more expensive than otherwise would have been the case. And both of these, of course, are related by and large to the war in Ukraine at the moment. So we are seeing prices spike, for instance, in and around Durban, between 132 Rand, I've seen it on a special, that's a special price, to something like about 270 Rand for a 5 litre of cooking oil.
That's very, very scary. I mean, these prices are very alarming, particularly because cooking oil, Mr. Abrahams, is a staple in many households. So as we sit and we look at these skyrocketing prices, obviously the next question would be, are there any alternatives if it comes to a point where we absolutely can't afford to buy a 2-litre bottle of cooking oil?
So essentially for most households, they would purchase the cheapest cooking oil on the market. So it's an affordability issue that drives which product they would choose, whether they would go for sunflower oil, canola oil, or another type of oil. And of course, all of these have increased over the last few weeks. So households are going to have to cut back on the use of cooking oil rather than really replacing it with another type of brand.
Now, obviously, and of course, as these issues between Russia and the Ukraine continue, the price is going to continue to get higher, Mr. Abrahams. And of course, I think it's going to be very important for us to start understanding the importance of prioritizing and budgeting and focusing only exclusively on absolutely what our houses need.
Yes, exactly. We would have to do that. But the reason why the South African household is under such financial stress is that all 5 priority items in a household budget are all increasing around about the same time and well above CPI headline inflation. So these would be, number 1, transport, number 2, to do with energy prices. Electricity is going to increase by about 9%. We saw paraffin increase by more than 3 Rand over the last month, which the poorest South Africans use. There is also an increase in terms of debt servicing with interest rates rising, as well as food prices rising. So these are the 5 essential expenditures, and they are all increasing by and large way above headline inflation. And household incomes are not keeping track with it, and there are no household savings left in order to buffer households going forward.
So with those 2 daunting pictures that you've just painted, in that the prices are rising higher than CPI, and of course the savings culture in South Africa being so poor, is there any way that a consumer can provide themselves some form of relief?
Yes, so consumers, I mean, the only way that consumers at the moment can provide relief is, for instance, to be a bit more savvy as to how they use their money, where they purchase their food, and what quantities. So in my household, for instance, this is what we do. We write a list before we go to the store, and we stick religiously to that list. We do not buy one item that is not on that list. Number 2, it is also true that in the informal fresh produce market, so the lady on the side of the road, you can buy often less vegetables than you actually require, while in a retail store you have to buy the quantities available. So that's another area where households can make some kind of changes and savings. But by and large, the situation is that households are, in our experience, cutting back on the amount of food they consume and the quality of food that they consume, and they have no other way out.
Mr. Abrahams, can we take some comfort in the fact that these situations are never lasting forever? They do come to an end at some stage. In this situation, unfortunately, we just don't know how long we'll be stuck in this, but there will be an easing, perhaps in the medium to the longer term.
Yes, so we do expect, and absolutely true as you say, already some economists are saying that we've probably hit the peak of both fuel prices as well as sunflower prices. And it's likely that it would begin to trend down, and we'll probably see that over the next month or so. But it also raises a much bigger question, and that is, how do we structure the South African economy and household to be more resilient against these global spikes that we will see happen more often? So how do we change our infrastructure, our logistics, for instance? How do we change packaging, for instance, to be less fuel exposed? And that is something that we really need to work on the long term, rather than purely crisis managing whenever we are in a global crisis.
And that's exactly what we're doing at the moment, Mr. Abrahams, crisis managing. Thank you very much for your time this morning, Mervyn Abrahams from the Pietermaritzburg Economic Justice and Dignity Group, talking us through the increasing price of your different cooking oils, sunflower, canola, whatever it is that you prefer. And that's because of what we're seeing happening in Europe between Russia and Ukraine.